In the fifth chapter of ~ISIS Unveiled, Blavatsky identifies a single, primal medium that underlies all magical and physical operations in the universe. She argues that while history is filled with an infinite confusion of names, they all refer to the same mysterious, all-pervading cause, the Greek Archeus. This force has been called chaos by the ancients, the sacred fire of the Zoroastrians, and the Akasa of the Hindu adepts. To the Rosicrucians, it was the Sidereal Light, to the Kabbalists, the Astral Light, and more recently, it has been termed odd by Reichenbach and the psychic force by modern scientists like William Crookes. Blavatsky notes that even 19th-century science was on the verge of recognizing this unity of force. She points to Thomas Edison's announcement of a new force which, while sharing conductivity with electricity, was believed to have its own distinct and regular laws. She asserts that this discovery is simply another correlation of the astral virgin, the parent fount of all natural energies. She highlights that even Michael Faraday had previously hinted at a common origin for all forms of matter and force through the principle of correlation. A significant portion of this section is dedicated to the research of John Tyndall, whom Blavatsky claims narrowly escaped a great discovery. She describes Tyndall's experiments where he subjected the vapors of volatile liquids to concentrated beams of light, causing them to form airy shapes of gorgeous tints, such as tulips, scrolls, and even a serpent's head or a fish with gills and feelers. While Tyndall marveled at these exquisite forms, Blavatsky critiques him for remaining rooted at the border of the incomprehensible. She argues that science fails to solve the mystery of life because it ignores the spiritual essence that acts through the ether to organize matter. Ultimately, Blavatsky maintains that what modern science calls unverifiable hypotheses, the ancients understood as demonstrated laws. She asserts that the miracles of history were not violations of nature but were produced by those who knew how to guide the currents of the astral light with their will power. By failing to look beyond the physical, she argues, modern scientists are like squirrels upon a revolving wheel, doomed to repeat the same material observations while ignoring the divine intelligence that infuses every atom. Next, Blavatsky explores the nature of the primordial substance, that universal, fluid mass, from which all things originally sprang. She explains that ancient cosmogonies, despite their varied language, all point to this same starting point. Whether it is the Hindu Akasa, the Scandinavian legend of the giant Ymir, or the Greek chaos, these myths allegorize the period when nascent vapors and Cimmerian darkness lay over a fluidic universe before the first flutter of the divine breath. This substance is the prima materia of the alchemists, the divine essence that invisibly permeates and encloses the universe. Blavatsky links these myths to a unified, ancient scientific truth. She explains that the various sun gods of antiquity were symbols of the physical unity of the universe, representing how the planets are composed of the same chemical elements as our own. The sacred soma of the Hindus represents the life drink, which awakens the man spirit within the man matter. Even the Scandinavian fable of the rainbow bridge, Bifrost, is viewed as an allegory for the ether, serving as a bridge of energy between the visible and invisible orders of things. A core argument in this section is the impossibility of miracle. Blavatsky asserts that so-called miracles, from Moses to Cagliostro, were simply actions, perfectly in accordance with natural law, hence, they were not miracles at all. She highlights famous cases of resuscitation, such as the ruler's daughter raised by Jesus and the Corinthian bride by Apollonius of Tyana. In both instances, the records indicate these were not violations of nature but cases of suspended animation, recognized by those who understood the hidden laws of nature. According to the sources, these initiates possessed a knowledge and control of occult forces, including the vital force, that allowed them to reanimate a body where the silvery spark of the spirit had not yet fully departed. Ultimately, Blavatsky maintains that science will never truly understand life until it stops treating the spirit as a poetical myth, and recognizes the divine intelligence that guides the blind forces of the astral light. In the final part of Chapter 5, Blavatsky illustrates the power of the astral light through the astounding experiments of the Hindu fakirs. She recounts the testimony of the Orientalist Louis Jacqueliot, who witnessed a fakir cause a seed to germinate and grow into a mature plant in less than 2 hours. Under the fakir's extended palms, the seed pushed through the soil and reached a height that would normally require weeks of growth. Blavatsky explains that this is not a miracle but a demonstration of the human will acting as a creative force. The fakir's will forms an invisible, objective matrix, and concentrates the Akasa, or life principle, into the germ, forcing its development with preternatural activity. Blavatsky distinguishes between the holy fakir and the mercenary sorcerer. The former uses his own divine soul and the help of pure, ethereal beings, pitris, to produce wonders. In contrast, the sorcerer, driven by greed or selfish purposes, can only summon elementals, soulless creatures of the lower astral atmosphere. She also notes the power of invulnerability. Adepts can handle blazing coals or red-hot iron without injury because they can compress the astral fluid into an impenetrable, protective shell around their bodies. Finally, the chapter contrasts ancient and modern theories of evolution. Blavatsky presents the allegory of the Hindu mundane tree, Aswatha, which grows in a reversed position, roots upward and branches downward. The roots represent the invisible world of spirit, while the branches signify the visible universe of sense. She argues that ancient evolution began from spirit and proceeded downward toward matter, representing a gradual materialization of forms. This is the reverse of Darwinian theory, which traces progress from the lowest material forms upward. According to the sources, humanity must eventually return to its spiritual point of departure, completing the circle of necessity. Thank you for joining us for this summary of Chapter 5. We have explored the astral light as the bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds and seen how the will can dominate even the elements of nature. Subscribe as we move into Chapter 6, Psychophysical Phenomena, where we will examine the mysteries of mesmerism and the debt science owes to Paracelsus.